Mr. Thompson here. We're looking at U.S. History Standard 10, identify legal, social, and political dimensions of Reconstruction. In particular, we're looking at Part E of that standard, analyze how the presidential election of 1876 marked the end of Reconstruction. The period of Reconstruction has a definite beginning and a definite end. The efforts of the federal government to direct the rebuilding of the U.S. economically, physically, and socially began at the end of the Civil War and ended with the presidential election of Rutherford B. Hayes in 1876. Without federal government oversight, racial equality was not protected in the South. Political and economic factors contributed to the federal government's abandonment of Reconstruction. By the mid 1870s, there had been a change in state level politics in the South. The white Southerners who had refrained from voting and participating in government had reclaimed their position of dominance in state level politics. Until this point, black Republicans had held many elected positions in state legislatures throughout the South following the Civil War. The Reconstruction Amendments had guaranteed voting rights and citizenship for former slaves. The federal government's military occupation of the South during Reconstruction from the years of 1865 to 1877 had helped to guarantee safety for blacks to vote in southern states. The result of blacks safely voting and participating in the government led to approximately 2,000 black representatives elected state, local, and even U.S. Senate positions. Blacks being able to safely participate and vote in elections led to approximately 2,000 black representatives elected to local, state, and even U.S. Senate positions. In fact, South Carolina's majority slave population prior to the Civil War meant that those former slaves who exercised their right to vote held tremendous voting power. This was especially true since many white voters refused to participate in elections as a way to protest their loss in the Civil War. The political power of black Republicans in the South was brief and came to an end with the end of Reconstruction in 1877. In the presidential election of 1876, the Democrats nominated Samuel J. Tilden as their candidate, while the Republicans nominated Rutherford B. Hayes to be their candidate. The campaign was a bitter one. Tilden won the popular vote by 267,000 votes, but failed to carry a majority of the Electoral College votes. The electoral votes in 4 states, Florida, South Carolina, Oregon, and Louisiana, were disputed. A special federal commission was appointed to sort out the Electoral College dispute. The commission awarded the Republican Hayes the election along straight party lines. Democrats in Congress threatened to filibuster the vote count. To alleviate the crisis, Hayes met with Democratic members of the House of Representatives and worked out the Compromise of 1877. In exchange for Democrat support, Hayes agreed to support internal improvements for the South, appoint a Southerner to the cabinet, and withdraw federal troops from the South. A key factor in the North's willingness to abandon Reconstruction efforts was the economy. The nation was faced with an economic downturn in the 1870s, and Reconstruction expenses were putting a strain on the federal government. The North viewed themselves as solely financing the military occupation and relief programs such as the Freedmen's Bureau. Ending Reconstruction was a way to cut expenses. Shortly after his inauguration in March of 1877, Hayes ordered the removal of federal troops in the South. Republican dominated state governments collapsed across the South, and blacks were slowly disenfranchised by state laws. Disenfranchised, their vote taken away. Reconstruction had ended.